Yeah, it's your boy Will Trivino. Today I'm going to be stopping by Papa Don NYC, one of the hottest Indonesian spots in New York City. I'm going to be talking to my boy Donny and his wife Patty to learn more about their story. So, Donny boy, nice to see you. Patty, nice to meet you today. How are you?
Good, yourself? How's everything going?
Chilling, bro. So, we are here today at Papa Don NYC. I see that you got the bubble tea and everything like that. Dope. Congratulations, by the way. My thing is, I would like to know more about your backstory, right? Like, what made you want to open up Papa Don NYC?
We've been working corporate for like over 10 years. And back in 2017, I had a major life-threatening surgery. They found a tumor on my neck the size of a baseball. Thankfully, it's not cancerous, but I was not able to work for like 3 to 6 months because of that. With that voided time, Patty and I decided to go back to Indonesia to be closer to my family, because my sisters, my parents, they all went back. In the time there, we learned how to make some pancakes, some drinks. When we came back, we were thinking, do we want to go back to corporate, or do we want to start doing ventures of our own? And Patty pretty much for the most part said, let's start something ourselves. You know, we've been in corporate for 10 plus years. Let's see if we could do something over here. We got all the food and drinks recipe from Indonesia and Taiwan when we did the Asian tour, and recovered a little bit throughout my surgery. When we came back, that's when we started just doing pop-ups, and it kind of worked out. It started picking up within a year. That's when we started talking, how do we scale, and maybe we should just open a store.
Just to give a little backstory on the pancake, we started out as a pop-up vendor, and we sold sweet pancakes called martabak. And when Donny was younger, he grew up in Indonesia up until he was 13. So while he was there, his favorite dessert was this Indonesian pancake. And this staple food, it's like you go to the corner store and it's like everywhere you go, you find this pancake. It's like a major staple. Everyone eats it, whether for breakfast or like a dessert. So this is something that he's been talking about. And you can't really find that product here unless you go out of state. So while we were in Indonesia, before we came back, we're like, hey, you know, like, what can we bring back from here to back home to New York, and what can we do with that? So since he loved the pancake so much, he's like, hey, why don't I try to learn this? So he found like a really popular vendor in Indonesia, and he had them teach them how to make it. So then when we came back here, we had the opportunity to either go back to corporate or decide to start something of our own. And while we came back with no job, we were kind of thinking like, let's just take advantage of this opportunity and figure it out before we go back to corporate. And so with his pancake, we're like, let's do something with it. So we started with as a pop-up vendor. And then after some time, like we were doing pretty well. So we're like, let's try to open a store. But unfortunately, we were trying to open up a store during the pandemic. So at the height of the pandemic...
The pandemic started is when we were about to get everything rolling.
Yeah, at the height of the pandemic, with the cost of ingredients being really high and having a store, we were kind of like, hey, let's change, introduce more items into the store just to make the store survive. And that's how we're like, hey, let's go with boba, because that goes really well with pancakes. And that's how we came up with Papa Don here.
So you pretty much wanted to bring a little bit of Indonesia back to New York and some of that culture that you found over there, essentially, is what I take from your story, right?
Indonesia is the third most populated country in the world. Well, fourth now. USA actually just went number 3. But there's not that many Indonesian food, culture, or anything everywhere. Most of the Indonesian people, they're in the islands back in Indonesia. There's only around 7,000 people in New York. And so we have a very small group. But at the same time, I felt like this particular street food was never introduced here, nor a lot of Indonesian food. So we wanted to try something on our own to see if we could showcase a little bit of the culture, and also to bring back the nostalgic feeling I had growing up. You know, like the reason I'm making it is because I want to make it for myself at first, and friends and family, and then everything worked out, and like it just kind of expanded a little bit more for us.
Nice. And I see you got like the brand going on. You got the t-shirts, the sweatshirts, and you used to be in fashion before owning the store, and so I can see the element on that. Tell us a little bit about that, like the ideas behind the brand. How did you develop the brand? Why you're interested in the brand?
So with what we were coming up with the name, I took it to the direction of like I want to build a brand instead of like opening up a cafe and just selling items. So I decided to call it Papa Don, and
not my idea, by the way.
I don't know about that, Don. All right, I've known you for a couple of years to know. I don't know.
I know, man.
You know?
But the community knows him. He's got a big personality. So I'm kind of just like, hey, like, why not just use Papa Don? And what Papa Don will represent, it represents him and I, and anything that we're interested in or what we believe in. And that's what the brand represents. And being that I come from the fashion background, everything that I learned, I kind of took with me. So when we started this company, everything that I knew, I kind of just applied it into what we were doing. And then during the pandemic, when everyone was home, I was like, well, you know what? I used to outsource all the clothes in China, but like, why don't I now do it myself? And how it started was because I needed to make uniforms for our staff, for us. So, and I didn't want to pay $25 for a shirt. And it started from there. And I'm like, all right, I know how much these things cost. I'm not paying $25 for it. So then I started doing research and then getting the materials myself and then making it at home. And then I'm like, all right, now this price is fair. So then I ended up making everything for myself. So all the tote bags, the hoodies, everything I make at home. Right. But now I have an assistant helping me with that, so we could expand more and I could maybe focus on like a merchandise company in the future, since this is something that I do have a background in. But as of right now, we're just trying to make Papa Don grow.
Nice. Congratulations on everything. Obviously, you have been successful and the business, and so congratulations on all your efforts. My last question is, what is your most popular item here that you sell? Obviously, it was the pancakes before, and I would have loved to taste one of those, today, but I understand. So like currently right now, what is your most popular item that Papa Don is known for?
The boba milk tea for sure is one of the best items, and taro milk tea as well.
Without disclosing any trade secrets, obviously, right? Just like tell us a little bit of like the ingredients and everything like that gives it the flavor and why they're so popular.
Honestly, there is no special ingredient with boba milk tea. It's all made the same. But I will say this, prior to me opening the store, I was a big fan of boba milk tea. Now that I do have a store of my own and I started making boba myself, what the difference is how you make the boba. And every little change that you make in the boba process, it changes the outcome of the taste of it. So I always tell my staff, you kind of have to baby the boba while you make it, and throughout the process of making it, making sure to add the sugar and all that, and all these little tweaks that you add to it does make a difference in how it tastes at the end. So I always joke that our drinks are made with love, and that's why it tastes better.
Nice.
That's why we say stay sweet.
Yeah, that's the secret ingredient, right? Love.
One thing that we've always been talking about is, how do we scale? What kind of options do we have? I know a lot of people say, if you're scaling that big, maybe franchise. What's your thought on that?
Franchising obviously comes with its pros and cons, which I'm sure people have told you before in the past, right? One of the biggest things with a franchise is you need to make sure your intellectual property and your trade secrets are protected. Those two elements are what you're licensing away to other franchisees, right? You gain some stuff by not having to deal with the day-to-day of that particular unit, but you also give up a little bit of your branding, because as much as you can put it in the franchise agreement, what they're supposed to be doing, it's hard to control other people's actions on a day-to-day without you being present. In terms of scaling, what I would suggest you do, right, as the preventive lawyer that I am, right, to help you prevent a catastrophe, you first need to determine what you're willing to compromise and what you're not willing to compromise of your business. Once you have that checklist, then you go into determine options of how to scale. You have franchising as an option, venture capitalist. A third option I can think of right here off the top of my head is doing it yourself. They all come with different things. The territory is different, but if you have your checklist, you can determine your options, start picking people in those specific fields to get information from, because you need that information quickly, right? So you would speak to an attorney who does franchise law, or you speak with an accountant who knows about franchising tax purposes, right? And then do the same thing for venture capitalists, right? Do the same thing for yourself. once you've gathered all that information, now you're in a better position to really determine which way is the best way, because you have your checklist and you see, all right, franchising, I give away this. 2 of those are non-negotiables, right? 1 is a negotiable. I don't know, right? But you have a checklist that you can compare, and you'll be in a better position to go, all right, this is the route that we can take. And then you can just implement that, start implementing that by maybe hiring a business consultant to guide you on a day-to-day stuff, and making sure that you're scaling not too quickly, because we've seen what, the pitfalls that can have. The best suggestion I can give you today is everything is a process in life, right? And even more so with like legal stuff. If you're really prepared, you'll be all right. So if you were to come to my office today and say like, hey, we're interested in scaling and we want to do a franchise, our first question is like, what makes you think a franchise is good? Or what have you done? What research have you done to determine if it's a good idea? No, I don't know if it's a good idea. All right, so first we need to make sure that it is a good idea before, and explore, open up the world for you to really determine all of your options on the table, right? And then you can choose which one is the best options, right? Because for you, branding is important. Definitely you're giving up control of that, perhaps with a venture capitalist. Venture capitalists have a lot more money for you to do things, but they also demand a lot more. Do you want to do that, right? Or franchising, right? It dilutes the brand a little bit because you can't control people on a day-to-day, every single aspect of what they do with the business. Customer service is going to be a little different than what you would normally do, because they're not like your clones, right? So are you comfortable with that, right? And so like these are some considerations, right, that you need to go into. But what I can tell you today is pretty much like you shouldn't do anything without your checklist of what aspects of your business you're not willing to give up. What's important to you? From there, everything flows. So that when you come to the negotiation table, you'll be like, this is what's important. Can we do this on a franchising level? No? Okay, can we do this on a VC level? Maybe? Okay, the strategy starts tailoring to your interest and what you deem important, rather than you having to adapt to the territory. That's what I would recommend.
Guys, thank you for having us. From the Papa Don team, we want to say stay sweet. Look out for our 2023 project. We're doing construction on our second location in Long Island City, Queens, New York. We're going to have an outdoor market as well starting spring 2023. So look out for that. And guys, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Papa Don NYC, or follow our website at www.papadonnyc.com. Thanks.
Stay sweet.
Quick shout out to Papa Don NYC, located in Queens, specifically a store on 23rd Avenue and a new store in Long Island City. Thank you for having us. Come check them out. You're not going to regret the boba tea. Peace.